Good evening. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of meetings of public bodies. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Ramsey Board of Education has provided adequate notice of this meeting by sending a notice of the time, date, and location, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting to the Record and the Ridgewood News on January 15th, 2021. This notice is also on the electronic display in the administration office and was sent to the Borough Clerk on January 15th, 2021. Please stand for the flag salute. Roll call, please.
Ms. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Capuano?
Here.
Mr. Caputo?
Here.
Mr. Kaufman? Ms. Lamondola?
Here.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Here.
Mr. Seltzer?
Here.
Mr. Sassi?
Here.
Ms. Bierman?
Here. The minutes from the special and executive meetings held on August 24th, 2021 were previously circulated to the board as a whole. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Mr. Caputo, second by Ms. Burns. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? So passed. Mr. O'Connor. Communications.
Communications, get ready. Okay. These are mostly emails. They are actually all emails, unless I tell you that they are not. They're referred to the board as a whole. The first one's 824 from John Myers regarding loud music coming from the high school. 824 from Edward Alicia regarding masks. 824 from Christy and Kevin Nabipur regarding the petition from concerned families of Ramsey Saddle River School District. 825 from Jess Young regarding mask mandate and DEI. These emails in dates ranging from 825 through 9/3 from the following people regarding the mask mandate: Sherry Fusco, Sarah Lenahan, Rachel Seltzer, Kim Dobson, Anthony Russo, Judy Topt, Carolyn Barrett, Melissa Albrecht, Mark Polinsky, Amanda Noakes, Barbara O'Donnell, Karen Rain, Bob Ivory, Larry Callahan, Laura Carey, Peter Wasick, Janelle Ivory, Judy Campora, Thelma Pilipich, Susan Frubies, Shannon McLaughlin, Lisa Johnston, Jenna Goodfella, Elizabeth Forsythe, Phyllis Orozco, Linda Cralito, Marion Ahern, Marnie King, Jennifer Sawyer, Rebecca Steckelman, Kelsey and Andy Skia, Diane Tumulty, Danielle Oberle, Celeste Kalan Mazio, Jen Arcaro, Christina Border, Jane Garnes, Simone Cahill, Mona Patel, Megan Malatino, Kathleen Olson, Patricia Epstein, Patricia Linhart, the Berberich family, Neil Cohen, Kathy Brickman, Marissa Vero, Lindsay Wayne, Susan Carr, Stephanie Doyle, Shelley Carolan, Amy and Adam Kaufman. 825 from Aparna Marchaldani regarding mask mandate and DEI. 825 from Lisa Schneider regarding CDC state official orders. 825 Kara Conklin regarding vaccinations and testing. 825 from Don Hutchstein regarding ventilation. 825 from Meryl Aranci regarding 824 meeting and mask date mandate. And I think that is all. Sorry if I messed up your name.
Okay, so there was a total of how many correspondence?
70.
Thank you. you have a board secretary's report tonight?
Yes, during public comment, you will have 3 minutes, so if you do have a speech, make sure you cull it down. You will have 2 opportunities to speak tonight. Masks must be worn at the microphone. Again, masks must be worn at the microphone. Audience members are allowed to videotape and take pictures. I don't know why you'd want to, because it's all up on the web. And that is all.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report,
Yes.
Dr. Murphy?
Welcome back, everyone. We have almost completed our first full month, and it's gone splendidly. I've been able to attend most of the back-to-school nights and the presentations. Our schools look great. Thank you, Mr. Fojon. Whoever Mr. Fojon is, thank him and his custodial grounds and crew. The classrooms looked beautiful. I am making my way to the PTO meetings, and there is a real sense of excitement and just joy coming back. Right before this meeting, we had the opportunity to honor and acknowledge our staff members who earned tenure, and that's after 4 years, and welcome some of our new staff members to the district. So I thank those who came out for that. Just a couple of updates. Next week, we have Matt Dallas coming to speak about supporting teens in their mental health, and that will be right here in this building, in this room. It's 7:30. You need to register ahead of time. That is being sponsored by our Ramsey Municipal Alliance, so thank you to our alliance. Then on November 10th, Carly Bushhoven is coming back. Carly is the oldest sister of Madison Holler. Madison Holleran, I see some faces, I can't see faces, I see some nods. Madison Holleran story rang true for many of us. Not only was Madison from Allendale, but she represented, in my view, very much a Ramsey student. And she died by suicide her freshman year, University of Pennsylvania. And when I say that, she reminds me of a Ramsey student. She was athletic, she was smart, she was outgoing. She wasn't really someone who you would stereotype with a mental illness and so forth. Carly has been very open and honest about Madison's story. She has become a good friend of Ramsey, always helping us out when need be. So I invite you to come. If you haven't heard Carly speak, please come out, and that's November 10th in this room at 7:30. And then on December 1st, the last of our parent academies for 2021 is we're starting a new emphasis on the mental health of our student athletes. For those who don't know, we have over 80% of high school athletes participating in at least one sport. That's extremely high for any school district. There is a lot of stress on our student athletes nowadays. I wonder, does anyone here have a child who plays a high school sport? Yeah, right? It's between that and schoolwork, there's a lot of stressor on our young people. So December 1st, we're debuting our emphasis on the student athlete and their mental health. More information is coming out on this, but just wanted to let you know of those 3 upcoming dates. I do want to address the email that I sent out today. While I don't want to rehash what's in there, and there's not a lot I can share because it is a police matter. First and foremost, I want to thank the Ramsey Police Department and Mike Fanning, wherever Mike is. Mike is our Director of Security, and between Mike and our Ramsey Police Department, there's Mike. Thank you, Mike, for your work. Please know that your children and our staff were well taken care of. Well, I can't speak to what the punishment or the legal consequences, because that is a Ramsey Police Department. I will share with you that the threat was made out of frustration about the mask mandate. about the COVID protocol mandates. And I bring that up because I want to make sure that our community doesn't turn on each other. Okay, I get it. I'm sure some of you are here today to voice your opinion or get angry at me about the mask mandate from the governor. And some will be here to support the mask mandate. Okay. But I want us to remember that we're a community and that this will be over. And by no stretch of the imagination should our frustration, especially as an adult, turn into making threats of violence against our students and staff. I want you to know that is simply unacceptable, and I will 100 times out of 100 times get the police involved, because there is no way I am going to, for a moment, put our kids and our staff in jeopardy. Okay, so I just wanted to address that. The RPF, let's get back to some good news. The RPF, and I'm sorry it was emailed to me, I didn't have a chance to print it out, sent me a fall update. And for those who are not familiar with the RPEF, it's the Ramsey Public Education Foundation. They've been around for over 20 years, would we say? If not longer. Does anyone? Longer? Okay, I'm looking to my historian over there. Longer than 20 years. They're a 501(c), and they raise money to add to the enrichment of our students. And for those who have children in the district right now, we're talking about like Date or Dateline, or the Data Musical, or the Smith School Musical. They've done a lot over the years. In my 8+ years here now, it's been about $50,000 to $60,000, $70,000 that they do for enrichment activities. So I wanted to thank them and just give you a quick update. They did cancel the traditional fall gala, but they're going to be doing a virtual teacher in town treasure auction. If you remember the teacher auction where you can bid on, a teacher having lunch and so forth. We will once again be allowing the bidding for the snow day calls. October, the date isn't finalized, but there will be a Chipotle Taco Tuesday night in October, and they're partnering with the Ramsey Tap Room and Grill, which I believe is on Route 17 South. Correct. So thank you. And they'll be doing something for with the Ramsey Chamber of Commerce for a holiday boutique. And save the date of May 14th. That is when Dr. Matteo will once again challenge my supremacy in the 5K race. Okay? So Dr. Matteo, you're being put on notice that you have months to train for sprint for our schools. Dr. Matteo in the past has claimed that his back hurts and he can't run, but we all know that isn't true. And last, I'm going to ask Matt Lee from New Jersey School Boards Association to step up to the microphone.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. So what brings me here tonight is to bestow a special honor here on the Ramsey Board of Education, which is not something that is given to every Board of Education. It's given to those boards of education that have demonstrated their dedication to professional development and continuing education for themselves in their governance function in the district. We at New Jersey School Boards, we're an organization who is dedicated to helping boards improve their governance processes through training and through advocacy. Created a program that honors boards with a standing called certification, or a certified board. And that's what our Ramsey board has earned here tonight. What we do is we look at various portions of the board's responsibilities in the district, such as policy and contracts and things of that nature, to determine if boards are in good standing and they have essentially their house in order. but then we also require them to complete a training regimen over the course of 4 years that earns them enough credits to be considered a certified board. And through the dedication of this board, we've reached that level. And it's a rare thing. It doesn't happen to every district by any means. There's only 2 in the last year in Bergen County. So I do want to tip my hat to you as a board for not only continuing your professional development, but also modeling that behavior to the students that you're here to serve. The other thing that I wanted to say about this board in particular is that not only have we achieved this status as a board working together, you've already started on your next certification because you are dedicated to keeping up this training. I, as a former board member, can tell you that after 25 years of exposure to this environment, I'm still learning things about governance. And the fact that you all recognize that that is a continuing process for all of you and your responsibilities is really a testament to what it is that you give back to your community. So with that, I would like to present you with this plaque, and I'll just read it very quickly. New Jersey School Boards Association, Board Member Academy, Ramsey Board of Education, having successfully completed the requirements prescribed by the NJSBA Board Member Academy, is hereby recognized for achieving board certification. And it is signed by Dr. Feinsod, our Executive Director, and Mike McClure, our President. So congratulations to you all.
Thank you. We're going to ask the board to go up. You're going to take a picture with Matt Lee. That includes you, David Rockefeller. I feel like it's an apple. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
It's good to see you in person. Thank you very much.
And before I conclude my report and hand it off to Dr. Matteo, I do want to publicly acknowledge that Mrs. Caroli has earned tenure in the district as well. So congratulations, Mrs. Caroli, well earned.
Are you done? You're done?
I am done, and Dr.
Okay,
Matteo is
Dr.
going to come on
Matteo.
up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to make my short remarks from here today because I'm going to introduce our guest speakers. I have a few brief remarks before we have an amazing presentation that I think you're really going to love tonight. First announcement, Schoology Parent Nights are coming soon. They'll be happening in the month of October. They're being coordinated by our Director of Technology, Ryan Kenny, and run by our by one of the Smith teachers, Bobby Kalman, and some of our other tech leaders. So look out for that announcement on Schoology Parent Nights. One will be virtual and one will be in person. We'll go over how students use Schoology and how you get parent access so you can monitor and become informed. To the Board of Education, as required, I'd like to report out the graduation results from the class of 2021. We had 205 students, 204 who graduated, one who did not graduate due to multiple extenuating circumstances. 97% of these graduating seniors are enrolled in colleges. Over the next 2 weeks, many of our students in Dater Smith and the high school will be taking part in the Start Strong assessments. These are brief assessments, about 60 minutes each, and their purpose is to provide us another data point to help educators and parents understand the level of support students might need going into the school year. They're aligned to a small set of standards from the previous year, so fourth graders will be taking them. They'll be taking third grade standards. So the purpose is to see how well they understood the priority standards from the previous year. Parents will receive an individual student report for each content area. We expect those in early November. We still don't have all the information, but that's when we're expecting them. As Dr. Murphy and Ms. Bierman have said on multiple occasions, our school district does not operate in isolation. We are required to follow the laws set forth by the state of New Jersey and the regulations set forth by the Department of Education. One of those regulations requires us to undergo an extensive monitoring process every third year, and this is our year. One of the requirements in the areas of instruction and program is that we report the participation and performance results of the annual statewide assessment. I usually do this every October to comply. However, this past spring, there were no standardized assessments. So, we recently received guidance that to comply, we may choose to analyze the 2018-2019 assessments deeper and go back and analyze them through different lenses. So that's what I've been doing, and I'll report out on that in October, but I've uncovered a couple of things that I kind of wanted to share that I don't want to wait till October. I'll be redundant and share them in October, but in 2019, and just to say, I'm reporting on 2019 because that's the last time we took these assessments, and that's the directive from the State of Education. Tisdale and Hubbard schools' academic achievement in mathematics put them in the top 2.7% of all schools in the state of New Jersey. In 2019, Dater School's student growth score in English language arts not only exceeded standards, but puts them in the top 3.7% of all schools in the state of New Jersey. In 2019, our academic achievement in mathematics was the highest it's ever been since we've been taking state tests. 51% of our Smith 8th graders take algebra, which is a high school level course. 94% of those met or exceeded the expectations on that exam. And finally, at the high school level, 86% of our 9th graders met or exceeded expectations on the state standardized assessment in English language arts, a full 31 points higher than the state average. So those are some traditional number-heavy metrics. Now, it is my pleasure to turn to something that is harder to measure, but much more important. It is my pleasure to introduce the teacher of our STEP program, Ms. Margarita Diakos, and two of our high school students, John Holloway and Maggie Haskell. Come on up.
Thank you, Dr. Maggio. Good evening. My name is Margarita Diakos, and I am the teacher here for the Student Education program. And I work with students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, ages 14 to 21. And we work on various skills such as functional academics, interpersonal skills and self-determination, and career skills as well as daily living skills. So I am also the advisor for Best Buddies, an extracurricular program here at Ramsey High School that allows for all students to be included within our school and community. And I'm also the advisor for Special Olympics. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you one of my STEP students, John Holloway, and one of my student teacher assistants, Maggie Haskell.
Hello, my name is John Holloway, and I am a student in STEP. I am also a member of Best Buddies and a Special Olympics athlete.
Hello,
Hello, I am Maggie Haskell, and I'm a student teacher assistant within the STEP program and a member of Best Buddies.
We would like to share what it means to be a part of STEP Best Buddies in Special Olympics and how it has changed all of our lives for the better.
Thank you everyone for your time and support in helping us create a more inclusive school and community.
Inclusion lives here at Ramsey High School and in the Ramsey community. It is our mission to establish a school culture that promotes inclusion by achieving excellence through diversity and equity, teaching for understanding, and enhancing the learning experience for all students so that each individual develops the qualities and skills presented within the profile of a Ramsey graduate.
Hi, my name is Joe Stentz. I graduated RHS class of 2019, and I was also the founding president for the Best Buddies chapter at RHS. Learning more and more about the Best Buddies program and getting to know the students in that class, I came to realize what the Best Buddies, what this opportunity really was. And it wasn't just a sense of community, it was a chance for me to be bigger than myself and really help out others and give other people a chance that without Best Buddies they might not get.
Best Buddies is the world's largest international nonprofit organization dedicated to ending the social, physical, and economic isolation of the 200 million people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, referred to as IDD. Its programs empower the special abilities of people with IDD by helping them form meaningful friendships with their peers, secure successful jobs, live independently, improve public speaking, self-advocacy, and communication skills, and feel valued by society.
I enjoyed having lunch with my best buddies because I love their company and spending time with them. I also love going out to community events with my buddies, like the dances hosted by Ramsey is for Everyone.
Through our efforts, all students have the opportunity to become leaders within this movement as they learn to be more empathetic, understanding, and well-rounded individuals.
I joined Best Buddies really late in high school in my junior year, and I was really trying to find something to make my own and kind of define me. And everyone else in my grade seemed to have their place in school, whether that be sports or art or like another club, and I was really struggling to find that for myself. And Best Buddies gave me a place where I could feel so wanted and needed every time I walked in the room. And I can only assume that everybody who was involved in this club felt this way too.
The best part of being in Best Buddies is making new best friends. I love seeing my buddies in the hallways, our classroom, and at our Best Buddies and Rife community events.
The vision of the Student Transition Education Program, also known as STEP at Ramsey High School, is to prepare all individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities to become active and contributing members of their school, home, and community by participating in all facets of the Ramsey School District goals. STEP's teacher assistants have the opportunity to support our students with IDD in developing their functional academic skills, self-determination and interpersonal skills, pre-vocational skills, and daily living skills. Throughout their experience, they also focus on establishing meaningful relationships with the STEP students as they take the time to learn about their areas of interest, skills, and what makes each individual unique. All students within STEP, both with and without IDD, have the opportunity to feel a sense of acceptance and belonging as they grow and learn with and from one another.
We continually strive to foster a learning community where we all learn with and from each other. I applaud Ms. Staekos for developing opportunities where our students collaborate on projects, learn together in electives, and pursue wellness through health and physical education classes. We all have strengths that can be shared with others. We are committed to fostering relationships and experiences that are inclusive and celebrate the diverse learners that make up our learning community.
Special Olympics was launched 50 years ago as a global movement to break down barriers and increase inclusion for neurodiverse individuals. Through the power of sports, athletes with exceptionalities discover new strengths, abilities, skills, and success. Including the Special Olympics as a club allows Ramsey students the opportunity to provide positive and enriching learning opportunities that allow them to grow and develop to their greatest potential. Simply put, all students grow here.
Special Olympics a lot of fun. I love building relationships with my coaches and being on the team with my friends. My favorite part of Special Olympics is playing basketball. I really like to play with my friends. It's a lot of fun.
I love being a part of the Special Olympics bowling team. We get to practice and compete together.
Special Olympics has been an incredible program that our STEP students have participated in over the past 2 years here at Ramsey High School. As we continue on our mission to establish an inclusive community here at the high school and within our Ramsey community, our mission is to achieve excellence through equity and enhance the learning student experience by creating unified sports teams here at Ramsey High School. Unified partners are students without intellectual and developmental disabilities who train and compete as a teammate alongside our Special Olympics athletes on the unified sports teams. All the students and coaches will grow and learn alongside one another as we continue to strive for the inclusion of everyone.
The transformative power of sports to instill confidence, improve health, and inspire a sense of competition is at the core of what Special Olympics does. So how do we take the success from the classroom, to the hallway, to the field, to the community? We live unified.
I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mrs. Wolrab, who's our media specialist at the Ramsey High School Media Center. She was the brains behind the whole thing. She produced it, directed it. She promised me she'd be watching at home. So thank you, Mrs. Wolrab. Thank you, Ms. Diakos, and thank you to your students, John, Maggie, everyone in that. We're so proud of you, and we're so proud that you're part of our learning community. Thank you very much. I told you I'd forget. Maggie and John, you can go home. You don't have to stay.
But thank you to both of you, and thank you, Margarita. I think it's been a tough 24 hours here in Ramsey, and we needed to see that tonight. All right. Before the public comment, before we enter into the first of two public comments for this evening, I want to advise the public, both here in the room and those of you who are watching us from the comfort of your home tonight, that I ask that you're respectful in your comments, both here at the microphone as well as in your correspondence to us. We welcome public comment and correspondence, and as you can see from the agenda tonight, we had over 70 emails to us this week, or this month. We appreciate all that. We do like the feedback. However, any and all threats made to us, both verbally and in writing, are going to be referred to the Ramsey Police Department for handling going forward. We will not tolerate threats made to the district, to our staff, to our students, to this board, or to our families. I think we can respectfully engage whether our opinions are similar or divergent, and so before we enter public comment tonight, just would like to remind the audience of that. Mr. O'Hearn went through the rules of engagement for public comment this evening, so I will open it now. The microphone is here. Please come forward.
One
Good
second, sir.
evening.
Okay, yeah. You do need to, that's the one thing we forgot. You have to state your name and address, and then Mr. O'Hearn will give you the 3 minutes of
And
time.
then we respond, yeah.
And
No,
you'll-
you're fine.
You're okay. Please stay. Just
state
state
your
your
address.
name and your address. And at the conclusion of public comments, we will respond as much as we can tonight. Go ahead,
Good-
sir.
Good evening. My name's John Pierce. I remember something from before the pandemic, which seems ages ago now, but there was a proposal that involved extracurricular activities, and it had to do with the people who worked for the high school paper, also covered town news and issue some kind of reports on that. And I don't know whether that's been discussed before. I can imagine that for the students themselves, it would enhance their education in what used to be called civics. I don't know what it's called now, but I wanted to suggest that it would also be good for the town. I used to work for a number of community newspapers. They're all gone now, and it's not just here, but all over the state. I have a sister who lives in Summit. It's the same thing there. And so there's practically no way of finding out what's going on in town unless it's something really big and controversial. The last example I can remember is when there was a controversy over whether to start a gun range at a former travel agency. But the thing is, you have these local throwaways like Suburban News that have bits and pieces of stuff they get from the Bergen Record, but they're reported by people who never set foot in town and don't know anything about the community. And so usually all we get is stuff about truck crashes and stuff like that. I think for the sake of the community, it would be of great value if the people at the high school could get into news coverage, not just for their own sake, but for the sake of the community. Thank you.
Can I have your address real quick? Sorry, sir. Your address?
28 Addison Place.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Pierce. Dr. Murphy will address that at the close of public comment.
Good evening. Randy Schwartz, 5 Duck Pond Lane, Ramsey, New Jersey, 07446. I wanted to thank you first for allowing us all to speak tonight. Last time I was here, I spoke from a very emotional perspective, and so this time I thought I would focus more on the facts, on the statistics of what's going on, and how it speaks to the mask mandate and our view here in Ramsey. I'm going to use that dreaded word, statistics, or as I called it in college, sadistics, but that's another story. So I'll begin with the latest stats from the states where mask guidelines by the CDC are not being adhered to in their school districts. And as I say these numbers, can we please remember, even though it's dry and boring, each one of these numbers equals a life. Florida is averaging 18,458 cases per day, forcing many districts to reconsider mask policies following a judge's ruling that Governor DeSantis overstepped his authority when he ignored the CDC guidelines. Texas has had 154,444 cumulative positive student and 28,601 cumulative positive staff cases so far in the 2021 to 22 school year. New Orleans has more than 3,000 cases and over 20,000 students in quarantine. Infections in children are highest in areas with low vaccine rates and where schools don't follow CDC guidelines. Children's hospitals are straining with a spike in cases. 2,500 children were hospitalized in just 1 week, according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. In the course of the pandemic, 5 million children in the U.S. have tested positive, and at least 444 have died. The CDC has released a study showing the multi-organ effects of COVID on recovered COVID patients, including inflammation of tissue or tissue damage in the brain, lungs, kidney, and heart. Mostly it has been children who have experienced multisystem inflammatory syndrome, and the long-term damage to these organs can lead to a host of issues as they mature. It is not just about the survival rate. When you say 99% survive, there are long-term effects, some we don't even know yet. At all costs, we must protect our children from catching this disease. That includes vaccinating those who are at least 12 years old and masking indoors when social distancing is not possible. So please, I urge you all to come out on Election Day and vote your conscience. And while voting for the Board of Education and Ramsey Council, I sincerely hope that your conscience takes into consideration the safety of all our children. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you.
Hi, Christy Will Ross, 140 Prospect Street. My family's roots in Ramsey go back to 1947. My father and aunt were products of our schools, as was I until we moved halfway through my sophomore year. As an adult, I've been fortunate to live in some of the most beautiful places in the country, from the sunny beaches of Fort Lauderdale and the charm of Charleston in the upstate of South Carolina, to the majestic Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina and the southern hospitality of both Nashville, Tennessee, and coastal Virginia. My daughter attended school in each of those locations before we landed very purposefully here after a job transfer because of the long-standing reputation of Ramsey schools as she entered 9th grade and our son entered 1st grade. I wish I could say our educational journey with both kids has been easy, that they're self-motivated, high-achieving students. However, I don't think I would have the deep appreciation nor recognize just how amazing this district truly is if my children were those exemplary students. In 2018, just 2 weeks before graduation, I wasn't sure my daughter was going to graduate. Fast forward 3 years and she is thriving and preparing to enter nursing school with a 3.6 GPA. I firmly believe that is the result of how well she was prepared by Ramsey schools despite her apathy in high school. My 8th grade son has struggled with focus and anxiety since 5th grade. Halfway through last year, we learned he expressed suicidal ideation to a friend. I reached out to the district, and within an hour I got a return phone call from Dr. Murphy, whose first words were, "We are here for you. You are not alone. We've got you." Now we have an amazing team of support, and he is thriving as well. I have even more of an appreciation of how lucky we are because of living in those other districts. I don't think you can fully appreciate just how amazing this district is unless you've lived somewhere else. I absolutely credit our schools under the leadership of Dr. Murphy and the guidance from this board for how well both of my children are doing. While there's always room for change and growth, it should be forward-thinking, not regressive. Like many others, I sat here last month appalled at the vitriol and ignorance spewed at this board. I am here tonight compelled to publicly support this board as those embracing continuously debunked conspiracy theories and misinformation attempt to bully and get a foothold on our board, whose ideology has no interest in the greater good, who are pushing for changes to the curriculum guided by those same conspiracy theories and misinformation, which will ultimately hurt our students. To each of you, please accept mine and my family's deepest gratitude and heartfelt thank you for all you do for our students.
Hi, Tony Stefanelli, 29 Fox Hollow Road, Ramsey. I want to thank the school board for serving in this very difficult time, but I'll say that America was founded on speaking freely on the challenges we all face, and for over 240 years, we have debated, persuaded, and compromised with that free speech. But now the poisonous rhetoric of the day is pitting Americans against each other, sometimes because a talking head needs to make a bulk payment. Let's face it, rage and anger sell by gluing us to the TV screen. We know the cost, and we've seen the cost. An angry mob restricting police from sections of Seattle, leading to chaos. An angry mob trying to destroy the cornerstone of American democracy. I will not fall into the trap of poisonous rhetoric because I want to debate and compromise on something that we can cooperate on. Masks are a nuisance. They're a risk reducer, and that's what I'm concerned about. reducing risk. Nobody wants the disruptions we faced last year. Nobody wants to see hospitalizations or deaths when a nuisance is what we're talking about to put on our face. I see my son get miserable on a screen. You guys did a great job responding to COVID. But let's face it, in school is always going to be better than in front of a computer screen. We've worked hard in Ramsey. We built an excellent community, and we had fabulous schools, which we just heard some great statistics on. Why would we risk that? Why would we risk the disruption that will falter our schools? I think masks are definitely the cheapest option. There might be other options too, better airflow. I even think let the kids get outside a little bit, take the masks off, talk to their friends, if that's practical. But by all means, don't ignore the risk. Thank you.
Peter Wasick, 349 Wyckoff Avenue, Ramsey, New Jersey. I felt I had to come up here and speak because I feel jealous. I feel jealous because, I've served on boards of education many years, but we never received the award like you received tonight. So I would have to thank you for the continuing professionalism. I thought I served on great boards, and I believe I did, but it's nice to know that boards constantly improve and awards are won by boards of education of average Ramsey citizens rising up and meeting their responsibilities to help their community become better. So I think this award is well deserved by this board, and I appreciate the efforts that you're surpassing previous boards, which is the expectation every parent has for their child to do better than they did. So it's nice to know as a former board member that you have done better than the previous boards. My second thing is, when I spoke to you last month, I said we should make a comparison and see what the data says about mask wearing and not mask wearing. And I think that you've had a month to look at the data from states that have adopted different policies. And I think that information speaks for itself. I'm not going to go over the ladies who spoke before me, spoke eloquently, and I'm not going to repeat the same information. That's what I have to say at this moment in time. But thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come forward?
My name is Danielle Bodenhausen, 30 Indian Valley Road. I would like to request that the board reconsider its decision to follow without question Governor Murphy's school mask mandate that disregards the parental rights of those who have serious and valid health concerns about the effects of masking their children all day. Many boards of ed throughout the state have sent letters to the governor requesting that he implement a policy that respects parental rights, and I'm just requesting that Ramsey do the same. Masks remain one of the most polarizing responses to COVID. I have not taken the time to write letters and speak up for the past year because I want to add in any way to the division or to make any of you feel attacked in any way. It's incredibly intimidating and uncomfortable to stand up here, and I really worry about whether my advocating for my kids will result in consequences for them in school. But my job as a mother is to protect the health of my kids, and my hands are tied now because I'm having to pick between doing that and sending them to school. I'm not anti-mask, and I have no judgment for a parent who determines that masking is the best choice for their child. But I've determined that it's not a healthy choice for mine. We've watched so much of the conventional wisdom with regards to COVID responses ultimately turn out to be incorrect and unsupported by science and data. For example, social distancing, it turned out that the 6 feet rule established by the CDC was arbitrary, but the consequences following these guidelines dramatically changed our ability to provide in-person education to students last year. Vaccines, we were first told, would prevent infection and stop people from spreading the disease. Now the CDC has clarified that it doesn't prevent infection or transmission, but it likely prevents serious illness. The origins of COVID, if someone were to question in 2020 whether it leaked from a lab, they were dismissed as a conspiracy theorist. But now the Biden administration believes that the lab leak theory is at least as credible as the theory that it occurred naturally. Lockdowns, initially they were considered the gold standard for stopping the spread of the virus, but data show that they did more harm than good. That's why policymakers made it such a priority to get all school children back to in-person learning this year. These are examples of how information surrounding this pandemic has changed in significant ways, and conventional wisdom, when challenged, has quite often turned out to be wrong. That is why questioning mandates that take away parental rights is so critical. While the politics of this debate play out, our children are being subjected to this continued intervention that has been shown to have detrimental effects on the physical and mental health, along with learning for some of them. I want to be clear that wearing masks in school is not a mere inconvenience or nuisance. The petition requesting that mask choice that was sent to the board this summer explained and provided links to studies clearly showing the harms of masking children in school. Please advocate not just for parents who would like for their children to wear masks in school, but also for those who have serious health concerns about masking and would like the option for their children not to wear them. Thank you.
Thank you. Vanessa Jaxell, 10 Rum Court, Ramsey. I first wanted to say I love the STEP presentation. I think that represents the absolute best of Ramsey. And congratulations to everyone who's a part of that program, and that young man, John Halloran, what a wonderful job he did, and Maggie Haskell as well. I think that was great. I'm reading a statement that is not, these are not my words, it's not from me, it's from another parent who was not comfortable speaking tonight, and asked me to speak on her behalf anonymously. I'm here to ask that the Ramsey Board of Education send a letter to Governor Murphy requesting that he revise his school mask policy and allow school districts to determine their own mask policies. Several districts have already written letters to Governor Murphy. They're all respectful and non-confrontational. They don't cast these districts or the governor in a negative light. They acknowledge the difficult decisions that must be made by the governor regarding COVID school policies. They emphasize that at this point in the pandemic, decisions about masking and other COVID-related policies are most appropriately made by local school districts. The districts have multiple rationales for asking the governor to end his executive order. They include the following. The New Jersey mask mandate is based on CDC guidance, but the CDC only recommends masks in schools, it does not mandate them. Community spread of COVID may differ throughout New Jersey. For that reason, local school districts working in conjunction with local health departments are better situated to make policy decisions about schools. A statewide uniform policy does not make sense in a state with so many different districts dealing with different types of facilities. Local schools have put various protective measures in place to safeguard students and staff, and local schools are in a better position to know if masks are necessary given all the other precautions they are taking and the current rate of community transmission in their area. The school boards also point out that it is the right and responsibility of parents and guardians to make healthcare decisions for their children. In particular, the letter from the Fairfield Township Board of Ed states parents in our community are extremely concerned with the current mask mandate and how they feel it might infringe on their rights as a parent to make certain decisions for their children. We understand their concern and have compassion for the various views they express. To that end, we are asking you to reconsider a one-size-fits-all mandate for the district and instead replace it with mask guidelines to be designed for each educational level. These districts point out that the governor's order takes control away from local school boards and violate the important home rule doctrine. And as the letter from Hazlet Township Public Schools notes, we believe that local school districts should not be denied the opportunity, via their oath of office, to provide what is best for their students, staff, and community. Districts that sent letters to the governor noted that parents have provided them with feedback that masks are negatively affecting their children's psychological and emotional well-being and are making it harder for them to learn and concentrate in school. They point out the inconsistency that students must be masked all day at school, but are not required to wear masks in supermarkets, movie theaters, or gyms. And just one more sentence. As you can see, the districts are respectfully requesting
the governor to remove the mandate and allow individual districts to make their own policy are basing their requests on evidence and logical arguments, the Ramsey Board of Ed should add its voice to this collective call for rational, evidence-based COVID school decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Melissa Quast, 67 Airmount Avenue, obviously in Ramsey. Hello, board members and attendees. I would like to thank the Board of Education members for their time donated to the students, staff, and all members of the Ramsey District. Your passion to volunteer your valuable time away from your own families for the betterment of the others' children does not go unnoticed. I am running for the Board of Education because I too share that passion. I have been an educator and small business owner for over 20 years, and I am driven by the need to help. I am ready to do my part for this fabulous borough I proudly call home. It's extremely difficult to stand before you and speak up. For those of you who know me, you would never think I'm terrified to speak publicly. This fear is not born of embarrassment alone. It comes from the fear of people not agreeing with something I stand up for or say, and then trying to cancel me or worse yet attack my children or go after my business. This is not how I want my daughters to see me, afraid to speak on their behalf. I am running for Board of Education to overcome this fear and show my daughters and others that you have a voice too. We should all have a safe place to come and share our thoughts and ideas without retribution. Our differences are what makes us unique, and I look forward to the opportunity to be your voice, just like Vanessa, you said, for whoever that woman was who could not speak up for herself. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Eliopoulos. I live at 215 North Spruce Street. I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm running for Board of Education this year. My wife Debbie and I moved to Ramsey with our daughter in 2014 because of Ramsey School District's stellar reputation. Our daughter is currently in 6th grader at Smith School and has loved being a Ramsey student for the last several years. Simply put, I am running to help ensure that the district continues to live up to its exceptional reputation, not only for my daughter, but for all families who expect the highest quality of education for their children. I am currently a physical education teacher at North Rockland Central School District and have enjoyed a 26-year career teaching and coaching children of all ages. The district where I teach has a diverse population of students of all backgrounds, some of whom had to overcome significant obstacles and disadvantages in order to succeed. I have worked extensively with these students in teaching and in coaching, and it is clear to me that students who receive appropriate support, encouragement, and understanding can achieve and even surpass their goals. My work with these students has been profoundly meaningful to me, and they continually inspire me to do all that I can to help them reach their full potential. I would be honored to have the opportunity to bring my passion for fostering success through these principles to the students of Ramsey. As such, I can bring an educator's perspective to the Board of Education to help the board in its policy-making decisions, which includes a deep understanding of students' needs, as well as the needs of teachers to have access to the tools and support of the administration to help best serve their students. My educational background, which includes a bachelor's degree in business management, a master's degree in physical education from Hofstra University, and a master's degree in education administration from New Paltz University, has also given me the skills and tools needed to understand and help improve the business and administrative aspects of managing a school district. In sum, I believe that I would be able to add significant and meaningful value to the Ramsey School District as a Board of Education member. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Taylor, 41 Ferguson Place, Ramsey, New Jersey.
I'm running for a seat on the Ramsey Board of Education. My husband and I have lived in Ramsey for 4 years with our 3 children. I'm running for a position on the board because my family believes in Ramsey and what it has to offer its constituents. I have had the opportunity to live in many places in my life, from the suburbs of the inner city, from the suburbs to the inner city. Each has brought a unique perspective. Ramsey is no different. I'm pleased to have found Ramsey offers a very unique landscape within our community. I believe with the right leadership, teachers should spend their God-given gifts on educating our children that prepares them for successful futures, concentrating on scholastics, sports, band, science, music, and mathematics. As an entrepreneur, an advocate, and a survivor, I bring a unique and dynamic perspective to the fabric of the community to help maintain and even improve the high quality of our school system. It has long been my passion to bolster community progress. From a young age, I have been a passionate advocate for children. For example, during my teen years, I spent 3 weeks in Honduras rebuilding orphanages in Tegucigalpa and San Pedro Sula. I have seen firsthand how communities around the world do not have access to the privileges and resources we do here. In high school, I was a member of Madison, New Jersey's personal development program, centered around providing students a safe place to discuss peer pressure, drug use, and instilling confidence to navigate their 4 formidable years. It is important to instill in children a sense of appreciation for all they have, as well as a sense of responsibility to use what they have to help others to rise up. These considerations directly align with Ramsey School District's Achieving Excellence Through Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion initiative. I believe every child deserves access to the tools they need in order to achieve success. The profile of a Ramsey graduate pyramid features the values of reflection, empathy, adaptability, communication, collaboration, and creativity. These are all principles I try to live by every single day and apply to my work with others. I fully support the Ramsey Stigma-Free initiative because nobody should ever feel embarrassed or afraid to ask for mental health services. Mental health is a key component, if not one of the most important components of full body wellness. Therefore, it is appropriate that wellness is a part of the foundational blocks in the profile of a Ramsey graduate pyramid. It takes a strong community to educate dynamic students, and I believe that the student's success depends on having board members, parents, and teachers who work together and actively listen to each other using common sense, empathy, while exercising physical responsibility. I am devoted to improving their experience of all stakeholders in our school system, parents, teachers, and especially students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jen Edelson, 126 Norman Drive. I just have a quick question about the mental health initiative that was added to the high school gym program. If you guys could just provide a little bit of information about what that is. And now just back to masks real quick. I understand that a lot of people feel really strongly that masks keep kids safer, and I'm not here to argue against that. I just want to ask the question, at what cost? I know the governor has threatened you guys, all of us, with imprisonment and fines if we go against the executive order, and we're certainly not asking anyone to break any rules or to just stop the mandate. You said at the last meeting that you try to find creative ways to include curriculum mandates that you may or may not agree with. I'm just saying, why can't we just do that with this mandate also? Please just consider approaching the governor with a letter, respectfully acknowledging that the mandate doesn't necessarily help or is not in the best interest of all Ramsey families. There is an exemption listed in the order, which I'm sure you've all read, that says that masks can be avoided when doing so would inhibit an individual's health. And as so many of us said last month, it is clear that masking our children does inhibit our health, both mentally and physically. It's not just the sore throats and the styes and the sinus infections that that a lot of them are coming home with. But there's very real long-term potential consequences of wearing a mask. It was one thing last year when the kids were only going to school a few hours a week, but now they're in over 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. And we have no idea what the cumulative effects of that is going to be on the long term. It's just common sense. You can't breathe completely easily when you have a mask on. And over time, small amounts of less oxygen reduces the oxygen level in your blood, which affects the cells. And kids who are already sick already have reduced blood oxygen levels, especially kids with pneumonia and asthma and anything else that affects the lungs and the respiratory system.
So in effect, by putting a mask on these kids, we're making them more vulnerable to the things that we're trying to protect them from. As elected leaders of our board, you now have the responsibility of enforcing a mandate that really is inhibiting the health of so many kids. There's nothing more important than the health of my children, which is why we come to this meeting to talk about this. And I just ask you to please not throw up your hands and just say there's nothing that we can do. More mandates are coming. They're coming our way, and we have no answers to the long-term consequences of what could these cause for our children. There's not going to be an end. There's always going to be new variants because that's what viruses do. The vaccines, as you all know, are not meant to prevent transmission. So please, at some point, at what point are we all going to say to the government, you have to stop deciding these health decisions for our kids? We can work together as a community to find creative solutions. Maybe we can hold a town hall meeting where people of all different backgrounds come together and talk about the options. We can find, it's not just a question of to mask or not to mask. There have to be other options. And I believe that we can come together to come up with some solutions. Thank you.
Hi, Isabella Alisea, 30 Hart Street, Ramsey. I would like to congratulate the board on its continual excellence and the award tonight. I'm very happy to be part of the system that's always accepted my son and our family into the school district, and I would like to keep it that way. With that said, I also commend you for following the governor's orders and keeping the mask mandate. In a sense where my daughter's 5 years old, she doesn't qualify for the vaccine yet, so thank you for protecting her from my older children who are in the high school who are vaccinated. My daughter is not, so thank you for protecting her and keeping her in your, in the whole, what's going on with the anti-maskers. I think it's very important that you not only think about the older children, that you think about the children that don't qualify for the vaccine yet. With that said, I would like to personally address Ms. Melissa Quast, Stacy Taylor/Tosny, and Paul Eliopoulos. I have reached out to them via their public Facebook page, and I have asked them a bunch of different questions since they are running for the Board of Ed, and they refuse to answer any of my questions. So here they are. They're questions for each of you that I would like each of them to answer. So the first question is this. Did you all support and vote for the Ramsey School District referendum? Did you vote for it? It's a simple yes or no, and why? Another question for all of you. How many anti-vax and anti-mask rallies did each of you attend in the last 3 or 4 years, and why? Also, do each of you support the LGBTQ plus community in our town, and why or why not? And I would like to know because I have never seen any of you at any of the Pride events in town, ever. So I'm really concerned about your stance about in regards to the LGBTQ community. Another question, do you support the state mandated diversity and inclusion curriculum, which is going to teach about race and diversity? And the last question, do all of you believe in the separation of church and state as it applies to education? And I would like the 3 of you to answer that question. Thank you.
Hi, Sharon Klein, 15 Lakeview Terrace. I came today.
Move the mic down a little, just, yeah.
There you go. Is that better?
That would be nice.
I'm a horrible speaker. I'm shaking right now here, and you might hear me get all wobbly. I came not knowing exactly what I wanted to say. One thing, I want to thank all of you. I really do, from the bottom of my heart. You all come here and volunteer your time and deal with a lot, and that's greatly appreciated by us. And listening to all these parents talk, I relate with Christy. My kids don't have an easy time in school. And when I talk to people about Ramsey, I bring up, your kids have it easy, you don't understand. Other parents fight for things, and I say, oh, they do that for me. I don't have to fight. And I appreciate that. You guys put a lot of time and effort, not into just regular education, but special education. And for anybody who has any need, whether it be emotional, educational, and I want you guys to be able to focus on that. for anybody on the board or running for the board. I don't know how many of you are medical doctors, if any. Could I see a show, if you wouldn't mind, are any of you medical doctors? Exactly. I don't want you making medical decisions for my kids. And I may not agree, pro-mask, anti-mask, I change on a daily basis based on what I read. But we have to have some kind of baseline. And the baseline are the people who this is their job, not our board. So if we really want to fight masks, you got to take that up the proper way. They can write letters, but they're not law changers. Again, my personal opinion changes. I understand both sides. I'm sitting here like, oh, it's a bit of a pain. My kids have trouble, one has sensory issues. They don't love the masks. But I have a friend who has a 7-year-old daughter with cystic fibrosis. And she's worn a mask every day of her life, before COVID, during COVID, to school all day. And she's fine. So I believe we can all deal with it. And I just want to show my support for you guys. I want you to please keep doing the great things you do for our kids in education. And the rest, take it through the proper channels. Please let them focus on the things that are important. If you feel masks are important, take that up with medical people. Take that up with the lawmakers. Josh Gottheimer, he's right in Glen Rock, a wonderful resource. But these people here, let them focus on the education of our kids and giving them the best chance. Because our kids, the kids who have illnesses that they don't have to disclose, they all have a constitutional right to an education. And that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Hi, Eva Farrar, 40 Abbey Court, Ramsey. I am not running for school board, but I will tell you a little bit about my background. I am a teacher in Ridgewood. I teach at Ridgewood High School. I have a bachelor's degree from Trinity College, a master's degree in special education from New Jersey City University. I hold 3 certifications. I've taken 5 or 6 various praxis tests. Got a perfect score on the high school English. I'm going to just throw out there. I hold, yeah, that's for my daughter who argues with me. I hold, and I'm currently in my 3rd semester of a graduate program that will certify me as an instructor of multisensory reading. I am an educator. I've been an educator since 1999. This is what I do. I am good at it. I know what to teach. I know how to teach it. I know my kids. And it is hard being back at school this year. This is the hardest year I've ever had, harder than my first year teaching, when I had students who were throwing desks. This is so much harder. It is. I project clearly, but it's hard for me to project my voice. My students who have hearing disabilities and suffer from auditory processing issues are struggling. We are all exhausted at the end of the day. I fell asleep sitting up on my porch yesterday. This is rough, but we are in a pandemic. This is what we're dealing with. It was not fun to wash all the groceries either, but we didn't know. We are still new in this. The fact that we even have a vaccine is lucky. And right now, what we know works based on the facts of what's not working in the other states. What we know might give us a chance are the masks. One of my kids, and I don't mean the ones in my family, I mean my students, because all of the kids I've ever taught are still my kids. One of my kids went off to college last summer within 2 days of arriving at school in an outdoor basketball game, which was unmasked because it was outdoors. It's okay to be unmasked outdoors. Came down with COVID, was so sick, so very sick. One night, he told his stepfather, please stay with me on the phone. I might have to go to the hospital. Don't wake mom. But if I go to sleep, I don't think I'm going to wake up. It's been 13 months. He has COVID-induced asthma. He's on a daily inhaler, a rescue inhaler. This kid is an athlete. A smart kid, he's not a drama queen. The masks are not to, when he wears a mask, it's not to protect himself. It's to protect your kids. When I wear a mask in school, it's not to protect me. It's to protect your children. This is not a health decision we're making for ourselves and our own kids. This is a public crisis. We're protecting each other.
Hi there. My name is Hannah Griffin. I'm from 140 Prospect Street. I'm actually a recent graduate from Ramsey High School, 2018. I would just like to add on to what you said a little bit. I'm a college student. I'm a nursing student, so I am going in for medical stuff. And I just want to add on that we send our kids to Ramsey Public Schools so that we can go to college, so that we can further our education. I pay to go to college to wear my mask. I pay to wear my mask. So for other people, I would like to ask, are you gonna pay for your kids, or are you just not gonna send them to college? Because I do, I pay to wear my mask. I went here, I got a great education. I get a great education at college, and I mean, are you just not gonna further your kids' education, or are you just gonna let them stop? Are you gonna end their education in high school, or are you gonna risk your own personal selfish decisions so that your kids don't further their education? That's all I like to say. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to come forward at this time? If not, we do have a second public comment later in the meeting. So I will now close public comment. I will move to board member comment. Actually, before I do that, Dr. Murphy, I'm sorry.
Mr. Pierce, thank you for that. Over here. Hi. It's me. Thank you for that suggestion. I'll be sure to follow up with the advisor on the suggestion for the newspaper club. I'll be sure to follow up on your suggestion, sir. Okay, thank you. Dr. Matteo, could you give a brief overview of what we're doing in mental health at 9th grade?
Sure. As we've had some presentations in the past couple of years, we've started a freshman seminar and a sophomore seminar, and we've been integrating various aspects of wellness. As the standards change and the times change, no longer are, it's much different than PE. When I went to high school here, it's a much more well-rounded approach, and part of that is mental health, emotional health, right there in the standards. What we're using at the high school, I think Mrs. Edelson asked, is aspects of the ruler program, the ruler approach that we've used at the elementary schools for the past 4 to 5 years. We had the author in Mark Brackett. We did the community book read on Permission to Feel. We've had multiple presentations on it. So my apologies if that wasn't clear, but that's the program. It's the ruler approach, and while at K-5 it's a little bit more ubiquitous and in the homerooms and kind of pervasive in the culture. At the middle schools and high school, it's more pocketed. So at the high school, you'll see it in the wellness program, and it's aligned to the emotional health standards that are in the standards.
We're also doing things such as depression screening for our middle school and high school kids. And we are also, I think freshman year, correct me if I'm wrong, mental health first aid? Sophomore year. Okay. So those are some of the changes that are taking place in the high school.
Okay. Are there any board member comments at this time?
I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead, Ms. Lamb.
Thanks to everyone who always comes out to these meetings. I have 2 kids in college and 1 high schooler, and the first board meetings I attended, my kids weren't in school yet. We had a different superintendent, we had different director of curriculum, and they're a different board. Laura, you might have been here, it's hard to say. But I can appreciate what it feels like to come up to the mic, because there were times through the years that I came up with a question or a concern, a concern I once brought to a board meeting turned into a policy. So I think that this open dialogue that we talk about often has been in place for quite a long time. And if in fact anyone in the community does feel alienated, intimidated, put upon, I would really like to know about it. I know personally, and through the others here on the board, we really mean it when we say we listen and we are here for you. So I just wanted to establish that from my perspective, because I'm concerned and a little confused, quite frankly, that we come across as intimidating. So at least speaking for myself, reach out. There's been plenty of people in the community who have contacted me personally over the years on different issues, and we're here, and we're trying. And we're trying to do our best during a time when we certainly don't have the answers, because there isn't anyone that has perfect answers or all of the answers. That said, we're here because of the students in this district and because of the teachers and staff in this district. And one thing I did not want to go through the night without mentioning is, as Dr. Murphy mentioned earlier, we had back to school nights recently. This year I was only one back to school night. I've never missed them in all the years my kids were in school. We've got one school this year, and that's Ramsey High School. So my husband and I went to back to school night, which was online. And every year that I have attended a back to school night, whether it's virtual or in person, I walk away inspired, excited, and with greater expectations for my children than I did before back to school night, because the teachers are constantly amazing me with what they are asking of our students and how they elevate education. I also work in education in higher ed. I meet annually with students coming out of high school, and they are prepared quite differently from our Ramsey High School graduates. I think if you go back over the years and speak to graduates that have gone through college, onto the military, into the workforce, they talk about how well prepared they felt, and they specify things, classes, administrators, teachers from this district that made that difference. So I appreciate the efforts that go into what we deliver as a district and the extraordinary effort of the administration staff and the teachers. It is no easy feat. I have taught over the summers online for 2 years. I hope I never have to do that again. But we are doing amazing things, and what our high schoolers do year after year makes the rest of us who graduated from college many years ago, it pales in comparison. The expectations of the workforce, the expectations of the world today require much more than the basics that we went to school with or our grandparents went to school with, and I commend this district from the top down for the work you do for everything from K through 12, their facilities, the curriculum, and the care that you put into the education here. So thank you, Ramsey High School Back to School Night, and I'm sure all the other back to school nights were equally wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amendola. Anybody else? Mr. Caputo?
Yes, very, very nicely said, Andrea. Thank you. Getting back to our presentation tonight from Ms. Diakos and the STEP program, the smiles, just the smiles on these kids' faces says it all. We have a wonderful inclusiveness program, and thank you to Maggie and John, and then to Ms. Wolrapp for putting that presentation together on the screen. And to the community tonight who came out and shared. Myself as a parent, as a high school educator, and a board member, I feel your energy. I feel your energy, and I do appreciate all your comments. I truly appreciate the time in expressing all your concerns. It takes time for us to volunteer. It takes time for you guys to come out here. Thank you. Thank you for all that you've told us and expressed tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Laura.
Go ahead. Mrs. Byrne.
I feel like we missed an opportunity with, it was Mrs. Diaco's tenure today, isn't it? Weren't we celebrating that?
Yes,
So,
earlier.
and she breezed on out of here, so I just wanted to say thank you to Margarita, who runs the STEP program, because she's just an incredible human being. I was reminded watching the presentation that I ran into her one day at 6:45 with her students in the morning, outside of ShopRite because she thought it was important for them to be part of the Special Olympics torch run. This is just another example of someone who clearly goes outside the call of duty and makes sure that her students are included in everything in the community, even outside of the school walls. So I just wanted to congratulate her on that because it's so well deserved and she's just an incredible human being. Christy, I just wanted to thank you for sharing something that's very traumatic and raw. Like, I don't know that I would be able to come in here in front of everybody and share that, so thank you for doing that. I also just wanted to know, I actually thought it was brilliant, and I wish that candidates running for office would come more and going forward talk about themselves, because we never get an opportunity to hear. This was the first time in the 5 years I've been here that somebody's actually come up and said this is what we're doing, and I just think it was a smart move. I hope people do it in the future. And I think that was it. Oh, and then the last thing was back to school nights. I'll be open. We have been struggling with one of my kiddos with the start of school. She doesn't handle transitions well, and it's been kind of a disaster. So my husband was very concerned with it, and I finally dragged him to back to school night with me, to one of the three I had to go to the one he was most concerned with. And immediately when we walked out of there, he just said, okay, my fears are eased. I feel good about where she is, what she's doing, that everybody is on top of it, and she's in the place that she's supposed to be. So just wanted to thank the teachers and the staff for, number one, making that in person, because I was very worried that this year we weren't going to be able to get into the schools and see our children's classrooms. I think that took a lot of mystery, and it was a little scary last year sending your children into schools and not knowing kind of what I'm a visual person, I like seeing that. So just wanted to thank all the staff for making that happen and welcoming everybody in.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufman?
So, one of the things I found interesting tonight was there's a theme that I see from everyone that's standing up and talking, regardless whether you agree with the mask mandate or not, but everyone seems to feel, and I wrote this down as a quote, how lucky we are living in this district. So there's something, Paul had mentioned coming from Rockland or lived in Haverstraw and coming to this district years ago because of the quality of this district. And that's why I came here. I've been here for about 4 years, and I came from Rockland County, and I have 2 daughters and 2 nieces and 2 nephews all coming from Tisdale at the same time as a large group. And I came to this district for that very sentiment, how lucky this district is to have such a great educational establishment. And I just want to impress upon everybody that that's not an accident, that good educational models don't happen because of an accident. It happens really because there's a solid foundation of leadership that supports people through their entire organization. I was in education for 18 years as a principal, as a teacher, special education teacher, as a director. And I've seen, and I'm sure everyone in this room has seen, the impact of poor leadership, because when things start to go awry, people don't say, oh, it's usually the leadership has fallen apart and things are really bad. I think the reason why people feel that things are so good and they're so lucky is because we do have good leadership. So I am giving kudos to Dr. Murphy. Good job. But I just want us to keep
It's on tape, I want you to know.
But I just feel compelled to highlight and draw some attention to that the quality of the experience that my kids are having in Tisdale, and your kids and everyone's kids who've said they've had such a great experience, is a deliberate, well thought out act. And it's reinforced by a stable board that supports leadership, that has diversity in thought, it has the ability to critically think through difficult decisions together with civility, not to bring the pitchforks out and be angry with each other, but to have a discussion about really difficult topics that we all fall on different parts of our political spectrum when encountering. So I guess this is my long drawn out way of just thanking the board for being resolute and having real resolve through difficult times, and thanking the leadership for staying strong. And I do feel lucky, you know, I feel lucky, and my role as a board member is to help support that leadership and that educational entity that's going to bring all of our kids the best educational experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I'm going to move on. Normally we'd move on to committee reports, but I think we had to move every committee meeting.
We had to move.
Back to school nights.
Yes.
We had so many in 2 weeks. So I'm going to move into motions, and then we'll go into some new and unfinished business. So the administration motions, please, Ms. Lamondola.
If there are no objections, I'd like to move administration 91R through 6R as a block.
Is there a second? Mr. Caputo. Roll call.
Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes. Personnel motions, please.
If there are no objections, I'd like to move motions 1R through 21 as a block.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Capuano. Roll call, please.
Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes. Finance motions, Mr. Capuano.
Yes. If there are no objections, I would like to make a motion to move finance 1R through 15R as a block, but pull out 9-11R.
It's a holdout on 9R, right?
Yeah, 9R.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Is there a second?
9-11.
Is there a second? Okay, Mrs. Burns. Roll call.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes.
If there are no objections, I would like to make a motion to move finance, to approve finance 9-R.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Burns. Roll call.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
No vote.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes. The no vote was because of a conflict of interest. Communications, please.
If there are no objections, I'd like to make a motion to approve communication 91R. This is a donation in the amount of $300 from the Black Dog Giving Fund going towards the Smith School.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Capuano. Roll call, please.
Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes. Governance motion, please.
If there are no objections, I'd like to motion to pass governance 1R.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Sassi?
No, that was, Ralph.
Ms. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes. Finally, the curriculum motions, please.
Yes, I'd like to move curriculum motion 9-1R and 9-2R.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns.
Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Capuano?
Yes.
Mr. Caputo?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Ms. Lamondola?
Yes.
Mr. Rockefeller?
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer?
Yes.
Mr. Sassi?
Yes.
Ms. Beerman?
Yes. Okay, now we're going to move to any new or unfinished business. Does anybody have anything before I? Okay.
Just a reminder about the open house next week at Tisdale, Hubbard, and Smith. 6:30 to 9. It is not a program. You can walk through and see the beautiful new everyday, all day kindergarten editions. Woohoo! We made it. Yeah. And the incredible work done at Smith School in the fine arts, the science labs, the STEM room, and so forth. So if you haven't been to Smith School, I highly recommend it. We are one of the few middle schools that offer a 6th, a 7th, and an 8th grade band. We allow children to do both chorus and band on top of all the other electives. And I know for many of you who haven't been around education, that is a big to-do, to allow middle school students to experience a lot of different things before narrowing down their choices in high school. And it's a kudos to this community and to this board. So hope to see you.
All right, thank you. So between last month's meeting and this month's meeting, we've obviously heard from many people on mask mandates, both for and against. We've received probably 100 letters in the last 6 weeks on that same issue. Some of you are urging us to write a letter to the governor. Some of you are urging us not to do that. And as I stated last month, we do represent all the constituents in this community. So at this point, I'm just going to ask anybody on the board if there is a motion from someone wishing to open up a discussion regarding writing a letter to the governor. If there's a motion and a second, we can open up that discussion at this time. If there isn't, then we're just going to move into public comment. Okay. Now's the second final public comment of the evening. If you wish to come forward, please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes to speak. At the close of public comment, we will address, as you've heard before tonight, earlier this evening, we'll address as much as we can at that time.
Christy Ross, 140 Prospect Street, Ramsey. Since we've talked about our education levels, I am currently a PhD candidate in public policy, writing my doctoral dissertation. I have spent an inordinate amount of time since last month's board meeting searching for peer review, evidence-based literature supporting the fact that masks hurt children. And I also reached out to my cousin, who happens to be an infectious disease specialist and COVID-19 research scientist, and I have not been able to come across anything. So I would be interested in having emailed to me that evidence-based peer-reviewed research that people have spoken about. The only thing that I have been able to find is an article written in Australia that says that the findings of their study suggest that masks may have a potentially positive academic, emotional, and self-awareness developmental impact on students. In particular, masks may also provide a more inclusive way of supporting students with special education needs. I also have a question for the 3 candidates running for school board. How would you support my son, who's a member of the LGBT community, the same one who expressed suicidal ideation in January? And I also want to know if those people who are so opposed to the mask mandates also are opposed to peanut products in school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julia Farrar, 40 Abbey Court, Ramsey.
Could you?
Oh.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Julia Farrar, 40 Abbey Court, Ramsey. So I'm a sophomore here at Ramsey High School, and at first I would just like to bring...
Get closer.
Sorry. First I would like to bring attention to the fact that currently the unisex bathroom in the school by the gym is under construction. So the only available unisex bathroom is in the nurse's office, and I would like to suggest that another one be opened to students here at Ramsey High School. Unisex bathrooms are just seen as a safe place for many gender nonconforming students, and I think that the school should just be as opening and as accepting to as many students as possible. I would also like to speak on the issue of masks. As a student, masks make me feel safer if everyone else is wearing them. At least in my personal experience, I do not think that the mask mandate has affected my socialization or mental health, but the pandemic has. Going through multiple quarantines has definitely affected just how I socialize with other students and has deeply negatively affected my mental health, and I would rather not do that again. So any opportunities to avoid quarantine again would be greatly appreciated. COVID anxiety is real, and many students, including myself, feel paranoid walking the halls, having a big disease hanging over their heads, not sure if they're going to catch it or not. There are many long-term proven health effects of COVID, but there aren't any for masks. There have been no proven long-term health effects for masks. So I think that is better I think it would be better if we focused on the actual facts and focused on the fact that there are long-term effects for COVID. So it's better to be precautionary for that than for unbiased data. Thank you.
Peter Wasik, 349 Wyckoff Avenue, Ramsey, New Jersey. Last week I attended a wedding, and this wedding had been postponed 3 times due to the COVID pandemic. And at that wedding, lo and behold, everybody was unmasked. And the reason we were unmasked is because we had vaccinations. And you could walk into that hall with the knowledge that with everyone being vaccinated at that wedding, that we were in a very safe environment, and it was due to the vaccinations. When we were in the church, we all wore masks. That was because we were in a closed setting. I think one of the things about the mask mandate versus not having a mask is that this will be resolved within the next half year. I think we're going to find out that with the availability of vaccinations to people under the age of 12, that this is going to give us a bigger shot at herd immunity. The same thing that we are currently enjoying now in many adult settings. My wife still has the quandary of, are we going to get together for Christmas? And that is because 5 of our grandchildren are unvaccinated, and we do have people in the family with health concerns. So we are praying and we're hoping that within the next couple of months, children under the age of 12 will be eligible for vaccinations. And I think as we approach this large group, this last remaining group, that's going to have an effect on what we're doing in the public sector. And I'll end on a really interesting note. The number of hours per day that students in China are allowed to play video games on Fridays, nights, weekends, and holidays, according to the new government rule, is 1 hour. And that might be something you might want to ponder.
Thank you, Mr. Wasik. Anybody else wish to come forward at this time?
Eva Farrar, 40 Abbey Court. To continue what I was saying earlier, I gave my, the reason actually that I gave my qualifications, my teaching qualifications, is to really drive home a point. I teach at Ridgewood High School, and I love my job, and I love my school. And I am so frequently questioned why my children didn't attend school or do not attend school in Ridgewood. I have 2 Ramsey graduates, and I have 2 Ramsey High School students currently. And I just, it never even really came up in our home. Because I love this school, and my professional opinion is that my students are being well educated here. There have been little issues, little things here and there that can be annoying, of course. But the overall education that my students are receiving in this district completely matches my tax bill. I think that says quite a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much to all the teachers, all the staff, and the board. This has been an extremely trying time for all of us, and as a citizen and as a teacher, I truly, truly appreciate all of your work. Thank you very much.
Ava Farrar, is this on? Okay. Ava Farrar, 40 Abbey Court, Ramsey. So, I didn't really plan something. I just had a thought that I wanted to say. I would like to speak for the mask mandates, simply because, while the masks sometimes they get a little annoying when you're like walking up the stairs, you run out of breath a little quickly. For most people, like average health, it's really just like a minor inconvenience. They're kind of annoying, but what's more annoying is having to shut down the school, having to shut down programs especially. Right now is my second band season and my second volleyball season. Last year for band, we didn't get to travel because of COVID. And for volleyball, almost all of my games were shut down because the other teams had gotten COVID because they weren't wearing masks while playing, and then ended up spreading it to the other team they were playing against because neither of them were wearing masks. So I only get 4 band seasons in high school. I only get 4 volleyball seasons. I'm already upset that I got sort of half seasons last year. I would not like another one canceled, especially because we are on a very thin rope right now. If any one of us in any of the extracurriculars gets COVID, the whole thing gets shut down, or at least part of it does. The band is 120 kids, probably more, around 150. One person gets COVID, and a third of them is quarantined because we go on 3 buses to competitions. So I would like to speak for the mask mandate because it helps it helps prevent spread of COVID, and spread shuts down the school, and it shuts down all the extracurriculars that all the students are looking forward to. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to come forward at this time?
Stacy Taylor, 41 Ferguson Place. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak twice tonight. In the interest of time, I'm going to get right to the point. I would like to speak into my experience thus far in Ramsey. I'm approaching my 4th year. In the past, I have witnessed so much of Ramsey turn ugly during election season. Never in my life, in all the places I have lived, have I ever seen such polarizing and divisive behavior. Personally, I have been bullied online by certain people in this town, ridiculed for my personal beliefs, and my family has been targeted by hatred. One townsmember even went so far as to say, quote, "These people should lick a subway handrail," end quote. This statement in the midst of COVID, while my husband was working over 130 hours a week as a fireman and EMT, protecting the public. Each time I respectfully request a meeting with people who disagree with me, I am met with anger, hatred, and mockery. The same people who incessantly opine about diversity and inclusion ridicule to exhaustion anyone else who does not follow their narrative. Ironically, some of these people are members on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Board right here in Ramsey. There have been parents who reach out to me personally who also see this divisive behavior, but are too intimidated to speak up and face the same ridicule I have experienced in my short tenure. My message to those parents is this: if elected to Ramsey's Board of Education, I pledge to be your voice. You do not have to remain afraid of people who make it their mission to intimidate and bully. Perhaps these people are forgetting my 2-year-old son, Shepherd, and I attended the Ramsey's first official LGBTQ Pride Month ceremony and have held membership on Ramsey's own LGBTQ Facebook support page since its inception. I have resources for those of you whom are concerned for the safety and well-being of your LGBTQ children. Please email me at stacytaylor728@yahoo.com. I will not stand idly by and allow anyone to smear my good name or yours. I will happily shoulder the weight if it means that I am helping even just one family have the strength and courage to stand firm in their beliefs. As a potential board member, I am here to pledge to you that I will be that voice, the voice of diverse thought, inclusion for all, and equality. Teachers in this district also deserve the space to express their beliefs, not to be met with recourse from Ramsey's constituents. I grew up in a family of educators who have decades of experience teaching as well as negotiating for the NJEA, and I stand in solidarity for them and their hard work. I would also like to address Isabella's questions. Please visit our Restoring Balance Education Facebook page, as we will be updating it with all the information the community needs to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to come forward at this time?
Vanessa Jaxel, Ramsey, New Jersey. Last month, we heard from many parents regarding their views on the mask mandate, including some who signed a petition written by 2 brave moms urging this board to make masking optional. When this petition was received by this board, masking was still up to the board, as Executive Order 261 had not yet been issued. I understand that the board does not wish to be among the many school districts and municipalities urging the governor to rescind the mandate. What I have trouble understanding is the board's treatment of the petition writers. I addressed some of these issues in my comments last month. Unfortunately, however, after the meeting, one of the moms asked Ms. Bierman to identify the 5 alleged people who asked to be removed, as well as the so-called non-existent address in her neighborhood. They did not receive that information, but were able to verify that the address was in fact accurate, and that individual stands by her signature. Another individual named at the meeting was never on the petition in the first place. Ms. Bierman wrote that the petition, which ended with the statement, quote, "We officially and respectfully request you make masking optional for all children in the Ramsey School District," felt like an attack and blindsided the board, preventing the board from attending to other priorities at the meeting. With all due respect, the petition, which respectfully asked for advocacy and help, was emailed August 3rd, and the writer specifically requested a meeting so that parents would have an opportunity to speak. That meeting was held 3 weeks later. Nobody was blindsided. Something is amiss with how this board chooses which views are worthy of consideration. Board President Bierman found it significant that 12 out of 170 families who signed the petition did not have children in the district. However, last July, this board received a petition from community members, many of whom do not have children in the district, urging them to take actions aligned with their views on anti-racism. Many of those measures were implemented, and the writer of that petition was given a seat on the district's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And you know who else doesn't have children in the district that sits on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee? The founder and leader of a local social justice group which strongly advocates for implementing, note I didn't say teaching, critical race theory practices in our schools. This individual has publicly called our community a racist and hate-filled place, and uses his social media platforms to attack, denigrate, and viciously slander anyone who disagrees with him, including most recently the 3 individuals who are running for the Board of Education under the Restoring Balanced Education ticket, who you heard from tonight. Ironically, he sits on a committee that is supposed to be centered in empathy and inclusion and makes decisions affecting our children's education. It is no wonder that so many parents and teachers are afraid to speak up and were demoralized after the last meeting. As a community committed to empathy, communication, diversity, and inclusion, we can do so much better than this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm sorry to make everybody stay later. Randy Schwartz, 5 Duck Pond Lane, Ramsey. I really wasn't planning on speaking again. This one's the emotional one. I did the statistics before, now it's the emotional one. To call outright people racist or I'm very upset, obviously. I'm sorry. The allegations that were made are, for the most part, unfounded. I am not privy to personal emails. However, the character assassination you just stated was happening to you, you just did towards the board and other members of this community. So I don't love hypocrisy, so I thought I'd mention that for a moment. Also, being afraid for yourself. It wasn't someone in favor of masking who threatened people at a school this week. So please think before you speak, get your facts straight, and I say with the utmost respect, I would never deny anyone the right to speak their mind, but please get your facts straight first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sharon Klein, 15 Lakeview Terrace. I too wasn't planning on saying anything else, but a comment that was just made before made me have to. So I guess they gave a petition for you guys to take away the mask mandate. I wasn't at the last meeting. But I need to remind everybody that by asking somebody to take away that mask mandate, you're then also taking my child's choice away. Because again, the science isn't that this is protecting me.
Get closer to the...
Sorry. This isn't protecting me, it's protecting you. And if your kid's not wearing it and is sick, they can get my kid sick. Now, you don't know my child's health issues. You don't know the health issues of their grandparents, or their aunts and uncles, or their cousins. So now you're saying, my children can't see their family because we can't know for sure for 10 days if they're gonna have this virus or not. So asking this board to change a medical recommendation, it doesn't make sense. You want to have your parental choice, but you want to take mine away. And that's not right either. So I thank you guys for not going forward with that at this point, because I like to protect my children and everybody's family. And fighting this fight, guys, have some common sense. I have a cousin. He's healthy, he's young, he runs 10 miles a day. His kid was in school and got COVID. The child was fine. He got over it. My cousin's in the hospital right now for over 2 weeks. He's had the antibodies, the remdesivir, he's got double pneumonia. We celebrated that he walked by himself the other day. He's a 40-year-old Air Force veteran. He said himself, by all statistics, he should not have gotten sick. He admits himself, it all looked great on paper. But he ended up in the hospital. My nephew is a nurse. He said, I'm not too sure about this. I'm not getting the vaccine. Him and his fiance just got over it after she spent a week and a half in the hospital. My cousin's oxygen went down to 56. So for you to ask that your kids don't wear the mask and then can bring that onto my family, it's not fair and it's not right. So please think through the whole thing and not just your need. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else who wishes to make a public comment at this time? Okay. Now I'm going to close the public comment.
Yes,
And then I'll speak.
just to address, and I want to just clarify that, and it can just be, maybe the words are spoken innocently and correctly. Number one, the district didn't react to having a diversity, equity, inclusion committee because someone asked us. We had that in motion way before COVID started. So that could just be a timing thing. Maybe the person who spoke didn't realize that. I've communicated that out many times. So we started that process in January and February. It was not in response to later on a gentleman who asked for a diversity, equity, inclusion committee. And also, that gentleman is not a founding member of the committee. He, along with others who applied but were not selected, were invited to sit on 2 meetings as subcommittee members. So what we did is we had a selection process. Those who didn't make it but still wanted to be a part of it were invited to be part of subcommittee. So it's factually incorrect, and I'm not saying it was intentional, that that gentleman was a founding member of the committee. I just want you to know, we invited everyone to be part of the subcommittee. So this is where I know I'm doing something right, because the right attacked me for allowing people from the left on that subcommittee, and the left attacked me for allowing people who had very extreme views to be on the committee from the right. Do with that with what you want, but that is the factual information.
Ms. Jaxell, it's clear your vitriol for me and has been for a long time. I do apologize for my statement at the last meeting about the home in my neighborhood. The home has no number on it and is completely misnumbered in the neighborhood, so I apologize for that. In terms of the people who asked for their names to be withheld from the petition the group provided, those were all a matter of public record at the last meeting. They all wrote letters. There was another one that came in today. That can all be Oprah requested from Mr. O'Hearn if you so desire to have them. They were simple letters that asked that their names be withdrawn for whatever their reasons were, and everybody had different ones. Your character assassination of me is completely unnecessary, and quite honestly, as Short said, just completely contrary to what you are complaining that we're doing to others. So I find it offensive and rude, and I'll just leave it at that. Are there any other board member comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I got a laundry list, so I'll try to go fast.
Okay.
Presentation on the STEP program and unified athletics was amazing. I think the unified part of it is the most critical part. I had the honor to participate in a Special Olympics program like that in college. I did shot put and bowling with blind athletes. So let that sink in for a minute. It was very interesting, very educational for me, and I think our students participating in something like that will help them appreciate all the things and gifts they have and all the gifts that those students and athletes have. It's a mutual relationship. If you've taken part in anything like it, you know what I'm talking about. Matthew had mentioned fine arts, how we are, making investments in our fine art programs. We continue to. I just wanted to say I met a family at Smith Back to School Night who actually moved here because of our fine arts. I mean, that's in a world of sample sizes, that's quite a small sample size, but I thought it was telling that, to meet someone who wanted to shake hands and say, I moved to Ramsey because of the fine arts program versus other towns. Thank you to all our tenured and new teachers. Piling onto that fine arts comment, a lot of our tenured teachers in the board packet, you'll notice, are physical education, special education, or arts related, which I think is a beautiful thing to have them tenured. They've worked hard. They bring new ideas to our community and our children. Back to school nights, again, to pile on, were amazing. This is my first year with a student at Smith. Running around was very interesting. I wanted to give kudos especially to the language arts program, where they basically introduced us to Spanish the same way they introduced my daughter, which was to hold the first minute or two in Spanish, which I just found very interesting. And it gave me something to go home and talk to my daughter about. You know, we had a shared experience in the classroom, which was pretty cool. The comments on the DEI Council, Matthew hit it all on the head. I am on the DEI Council. I would say I was in those subcommittee meetings with members of the community who have a variety of views. They do what they do when they're not in those committee meetings. They say what they say when I'm not sitting next to them or in a web presence with them. They were all cordial, they were all collaborative, and we worked together for 2 meetings, and I found it to be, you know, quite heartening that we could all get together cordially in that environment, interact, share views, and move on. I don't know what everyone on the committee, I don't know what everyone on this board or in this room does when they're not with me, but I can tell you when they were there, because I was there, they behaved appropriately, and I was happy to have them there. On the petition and masking, there's been a lot of comments. One comment made last time was very telling to me, and it was a little disheartening. It was around the fact that, it was said with pride actually, you know, don't worry, you know, your name won't be shared because we won't post this on social media before we bring it to the board's attention. What that made me wonder is, when did I stop being a member of the community? No one asked me to sign the petition. I live here, I have two children in the district. No one asked if I was into optional masking or against it. There's names on there of children I've coached, children that share classrooms with my daughters, and people I know from town. You don't have to come to us in private. This isn't asking for a private invitation or advance notice of your concerns. But there is a different approach. The term blindsided has to do with the fact that I literally had no idea a petition was being assembled. That's me, Anthony Sassi, stating that until it was sent to my board email account in the middle of the summer when I was on vacation. That doesn't mean I'm against it. I actually applaud the energy that Ramsey parents showed in compiling it, and I actually believe there is genuine concern about the issue of masking. But there is truth to the fact that I believe most of the board members up here, had no idea that that petition was being assembled. I would ask you, there's 9 of us, I'm one of them. I have a student in Smith and a student in Data. Find me. You can talk to me. If you can't talk to me, talk to Ralph. If you can't talk to Ralph, talk to Andrea. Someone up here should be able to speak with you one-to-one, and you can share your concern. You can then go and write a petition. You can then come here and speak. But if you don't tell us how you feel, we can't represent you. So I would ask you to please stop doing things in secret, include us, because we are part of your community. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to make a comment?
I just want to thank the students for talking. You know, last meeting, we had a bunch of students come out as well, and it's not simple to come out and speak in front of an audience, especially when you know that there are people who disagree with you. So I want to thank the students and, you know, and thank the audience for their respectful behavior while they spoke.
Okay. Thank you. There's no other business. I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn this meeting. There's such a motion. Mrs. Burns, is there a second? Ms. Lamizola, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Yeah.